had you visited Portugal before deciding to move?
I had been here actually 3 times, yes.
Okay.
I understand there are a lot of people coming from my part of the world that haven't done that. They get it in their mind. They're not world travelers, often just insurance salesmen that have spent their whole lives in the US and not exploring, but they just get a bee in their bonnet that they're going to move to Europe. They choose Portugal because what they heard, and they move here sight unseen, which is amazing to me to find this out. Hi, my name is Mark Smoot. I'm a retired landscape architect, originally from California in the US. And although I left there 43 years ago and lived in many countries, I am now settled in Portugal and very happy that I have done so. I've lived in many countries, and photography, travel, and meeting new friends are my new passions. Now I'm the latest guest on Portugal, the Simple Life podcast. I am talking to Dylan about my life and why I came to Portugal and why it suits my life now perfectly. And welcome.
Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, the Simple Life. And I'm really delighted to be joined here by Mark Smoot. Mark, bon dia, or boa tarde, actually, at the time of recording.
Boa tarde.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Dylan?
Yes, I'm well. We are in the middle of, well, almost in the middle of December, the time of recording. We're experiencing a bit of, apparently, some polar winds. Have you felt it there? It must be a bit chilly.
Yes, it's very cold here. Putting on lots of big overcoats and everything. Yes, in Porto, it's hot. It's very cold.
Now we know where you are, up in the north. But Mark, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about you?
Okay. Well, I'm a landscape architect. I'm now retired, very happily living here in Porto. I have been here for now 5 years. Been very bad not learning the language yet. I'm trying, but the old brain doesn't seem to pick it up very well. And I'm very happily settled here.
Wonderful. Mark, what brought you to Portugal? Take us back, and how did that all happen for you?
Well, I've lived in a lot of places. I left America way back in 1982 and lived in the UK, then in Dubai and South Africa and Malaysia. I've lived in a lot of places. But while I was in Dubai, I decided to get a holiday home in Sri Lanka, and that turned out really great. I turned it into a wonderful hotel, but I had difficulty with corruption in the area that I was. And
Okay.
So I decided I needed to find a place without that corruption and get into especially in my senior years, which are quickly sneaking up on me. And I found that Portugal was perfect for that. You know, it was very easy to get a visa and to get settled in here. And I just felt like it was the best place for me to be.
Amazing. Had you visited Portugal before deciding to move?
I had been here actually 3 times, yes.
Okay.
I understand there are a lot of people coming from my part of the world that haven't done that. They get it in their mind. They're not world travelers, often just insurance salesmen that have spent their whole lives in the US and not exploring, but they just get a bee in their bonnet that they're going to move to Europe. They choose Portugal because what they heard, and they move here sight unseen, which is amazing to me to find this out. But I had been here 3 times or so before, and I knew I liked the country very much. But I'd never been to the north. I'd passed through on a train, but
Okay.
Porto, back in those days, wasn't a place on the map.
Yeah.
But now it is. And Lisbon, back in the days I was there, was a smaller town. It's grown up so big that I really did prefer to have the small, easy to get around Porto to move to.
Yeah. What were some of the things in your visits, some of those seeds that were planted along the way that made you think, okay, these are the things I enjoy. These are the things that resonate with me. These are the things that are going to that made you want to move here permanently.
Just the character of the place, and it was originally quite a poor country. It was held back by a dictatorship and things. It didn't develop and as quickly as so many other European cities, but it kept a kind of a bohemian sort of feel to me that I enjoy. There's a lot of things here, a lot of buildings that need to be renovated, and that it gives me an opportunity to be creative and just looking at things. I say, potential was everywhere for me, and I just thought it's the place. And I think about where I came from, California, although it's got the same kind of climate as Portugal. I actually was born in a part of California that is on the same latitude as Porto, where I am now, and I've lived further south as well. It has the same climate, but it hasn't got the charm. Everything throughout America is a suburban life, and fast food stores and everything, and that you don't have the compact life that you can walk everywhere as you can in Portugal. And I feel people are more isolated there in America in the structure of their cities and their structure of life. Not only that, but the working life. You don't get the holidays that you get in America as you do in most other places in Europe and things like that. So that is a very big difference for me.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I'm very happy.
I want to talk about your book because it's really, really fascinating. And you've lived in places where and visited places where we talk about third world countries where there's not a lot going on, but they don't have a lot in terms of infrastructure, but there's community. What does community mean to you now that you've been living in Portugal? How does that look and feel?
Well, if I look at the Portuguese and their community, I think they're more interactive. For instance, I was in Guimarães on the weekend.
Beautiful
and
city.
Guimarães is like the historical city of Portugal,
yes.
where it all
Birthplace.
began.
Yeah, birthplace of Portugal.
There were a lot of Christmas markets and things going on. And Portuguese people, I think they were probably, people in their 60s and older were out dancing in the square to the music that was being played. I mean, where do you find that? It was all stone-faced and very serious in how they're doing their dance moves. But they were, it was traditional dances with each other, with the traditional music, accordions, and things, traditional old, going back to Celtic days sort of music. And it was really lovely to see the people together as a community, the Guimarães community getting together and doing that. I've lived in many places where I am the one foreigner, and there is already, I'm using your country as an example. I lived in Cape Town, South Africa for 15 years, and it was difficult getting into groups because those cliques were established long before I arrived there, and it was lonely at times. I've never felt that here. It's very easy to form or become part of a community here, and that's where it's important for me.
Tell us about your book.
Thank you for bringing it up. Maybe I can push it onto a few people and get some purchases going. No, but I was 26 years old maybe 27, when I found a job in South Africa. It was an amazing experience for me. I was a little suburban boy from California. Now I'm in a whole new world. And I was fascinated by the nature and the indigenous people there. And I'm in the design profession. I'm a landscape architect, and I was really fascinated by seeing how the indigenous peoples of South Africa made their homes and decorated them and laid out their villages and things in a time that was very difficult for them. It was during the time when apartheid was full swing, and resources were not easily found. But anyway, I got in my car again. As I said, I love road trips, and every weekend I was out driving around in different directions outside of Pretoria, where I first got my job. And
that's where I was born.
I went all the way through 7 different countries, and there were tribal groups everywhere that were different, and the house building techniques were absolutely different. And I just recorded. I had my little Nikon out, and I was taking pictures everywhere. And I got boxes and boxes of slide film, is what we used back in the 80s. And I promised myself way back then I'm going to do something with it. And but I went through my life transitions and I went through my traumas, and it just stayed in a box for years. And then I produced it, and then I called the book Huts, and it's full of colorful photographs of the very colorful homes that are there, and I gave description of my experiences as I traveled around with the people and who I met and things as well. Got it published here in Portugal.
Looking for a home in Portugal? This break in Portugal, the Simple Life podcast, is brought to you by Dylan and his team of certified realtors at Portugal Realty. Portugal Realty offers the exclusive Simple Life home buyer program. Visit portugalrealty.com today and book your free call to find out more. Welcome to the Simple Life.
In the 5 years, what do you want to say about your experience of the Portuguese people?
Say, for instance, in France, if you don't speak French to them, which thank goodness I can speak some French, they're not going to be as friendly with you as if you really have to show an effort. But Portuguese, there's maybe it's a humbleness, I don't know, but they're just more accepting of you as a different person, and they see your struggle with the language, and they will accommodate you, and they will teach you a little word here and a little word there, and they can be perfect strangers doing this, which is really sweet. The other day I went to this Internations meetup, and there was a man from New York sitting opposite me, and he immediately started talking about his investments and what he did, what he did for a job, and he was always pushing himself and showing how great he was to me. And that's just not done here. And I almost got to the point of saying, hey, this man's quite rude, because comparing him to the Portuguese, it's a bit of a shock to get confronted with somebody's investment plans. You know what I mean? It seems very weird.
But for people that want to make the move to Portugal, people that want to make that move, that want to be part of, we talk about community, part of an authentic Portuguese environment, what advice would you give them to facilitate that?
I wouldn't recommend right from the start buying a place until you know where you want to be, but I would recommend anybody that comes here fresh is to go to one of the major centers, because you'll more easily find a community there. I have a friend that moved to the Silver Coast not in Nazaré, which is a bigger town, but she chose a small town. Another friend of mine from Sri Lanka, who's British, and she's so lonely, because she is only one of a few people. Most people have holiday homes in the areas, but she's isolated. But I find none of that problem living in Porto, and it wouldn't be that way living in Lisbon. So I would be careful where you go, and enjoy the city and enjoy being able to have excursions out into the countryside. But it's going to be very difficult finding a community if you find a little farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, especially if you don't know the language. So that's my advice. Stick to the cities at first. Learn the language, and then you can start exploring the more remote places where you have your idealized little stone farmhouse with land and a view to the river and things like that. That was my dream when I first got here. I want a Portuguese little tile-roofed stone farmhouse, but I would have been so isolated had I done that. So I'm glad I moved to the city.
Yeah, it's interesting because my dream also was always this kind of country house, the red tile roofs, like you mentioned, the shutters, and it's a lovely romantic idea, but I never did that. I started off in Nazaré and other coastal towns along the Silver Coast, where there's people around and you meet people along the way, and if it hadn't been for meeting those people along the way, like the lady who cuts my hair, I wouldn't have met my wife. So there's things like that happen. I don't see that lady anymore these days with the lady that cuts my hair because there's not too much to cut. But yeah, I think it's interesting advice. You do have this people do have this romantic idea of a quinta, and there's lots of land around, and
I know.
it's different when you just get plonked into those areas and you don't know anybody. Like you said, you don't speak the language. They don't know you either. So it's this interesting position. So yeah, that's actually quite an interesting way of looking at it.
But I do hear stories of the people that do move out into the countryside that almost immediately they're there and the neighbors come up with gifts of food, and they're
always lemons.
Extra lemons that they're growing in their fields and things like that. So
Portugal must be one of the biggest. Portugal must be one of the biggest unofficial producers of lemons in the world, because everybody gets lemons. Like all of my clients that have moved to Portugal, at some stage somebody's left lemons on their door.
Exactly.
And so it would be interesting to do a study on actually how many lemons are produced. Maybe that's something for your next book, Mark. How many lemons are produced in Portugal?
No, my interest is in the architecture, and I've taken so many photographs of the beautiful old tiled homes and things here that would be my next one.
What's one thing that you would like people to remember and take away from our conversation?
I'm so happy I'm here, and I'm sure other people are going to find it equally wonderful to be here. I hope my enthusiasm is being expressed well enough.
Perfectly. Now's the opportunity for you to plug your book. Let's get you some interest. Ta-da! So tell us where people can find the book and where people can follow you.
They can get onto my Instagram, probably would be the easiest. And I've got my general Instagram account is Mark Steven Smoot. Mark with a K and Stephen with a V, and Smoot is my surname, Smoot. So Mark Steven Smoot is my Instagram. Or if they want to go directly to the book, the Instagram is huts.african. I've got a website as well, but you can see that on my Instagram account. You can see how to plug into the website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll put links in the show notes so people can follow and go buy a book. Go buy a book for Christmas,
Wow, so nice of you to do that. Yes.
Mark, a question that we ask all of our guests: Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Yeah, it's simple for me because I'm retired and I've got an easy life, retired. It's simple because, again, you don't need a car here. I do have a car and I have a motor scooter for getting around. But again, it's simple because you can walk to any place you want when you live in a place like I do. I'm in the center of the beautiful city, 5 minutes walking to any restaurant, 5 minutes walking to any supermarket. And as I say, good people, good life.
Well said.
No stress for me. The simple life because I'm retired mainly more than anything else. Yeah.
Good. Mark, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to let you call it.
That's a wrap.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And as we say in Portugal, sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.